Hi everyone. I'm a couple minutes late. Sorry. Technical difficulties. And Brian, you can be mad at me all you want, but it's staying vertical for now. I don't like it when, hi Steve. I don't like it when it turns, hi Mom. If, I don't know where I'm looking. Hi Aunt Patty. Go over my notes. It's been a while since I've talked about grief. Hi, Mom. Is Dad there too? Forgot to ask how his tooth went. You might see Phineas. He was just up here walking, and I went to grab him so he could be on at the beginning, and he scattered. So he might be back, or he might play with the curtains. You know how he loves to do that. Oh, okay. Thank you, Aunt Patty. I try. I, want to look presentable. I actually had to go to the office today. It was weird. The first time in 2 months. It's kind of a ghost town, but it worked out. Thanks, Steve. It is a healing year. Clearly, we got some stuff going on. Oh, lovely assistant, how is the lighting? Is it okay? Mm-hmm. Thanks. Hi, honey. Get my earrings on. They're feathers. Shocking, I know. We're going to talk about healing versus quick fixes. So I'm going to be pulling a little bit from my experience in the bereavement field when I was a bereavement coordinator for hospice. What that means. Thanks. What that means for healing, proper healing, true healing, versus the quick fixes, the stuff that is easy to get pulled into, but it's very low vibrational and it doesn't last long. Coming from my dad's a plumber, so growing up in the business and learning that you might be able to do something cheap and something fast, it's not gonna last. I rhymed, look at that. I know, nerd alert. So I'll go ahead and get started so I'm not rambling on for too long. But like I said, it all boils down to grief. We've all experienced some sort of trauma, whether it's the death of a loved one, that seems to be the most common, an illness, whether it's you or someone in your immediate family, the loss of an important relationship, whether it's to death or divorce or breaking up, or friendships can break up as well. A romantic partner, you can have a falling out with a family member, your job, whether you're retiring or maybe you have an illness and you had to leave your job, and your coworkers were your people. So it just all boils down to grief. When we're children, that's typically when we have the most experience with trauma. Our earliest experiences shape us. I'm sure we've all heard that. But moving, changing schools, bullying, which isn't just to childhood, but abuse, rape, accidents, natural disasters, etc. Those all contribute to trauma, which leads to stress. And the early trauma impacts our ability to cope with that stress. So when we're children and we're looking, hi Janelle, when we're looking to the adults around us, to our family members, religious circles, whatever that might mean for you, we look to the adults, and they're our barometer of how we're supposed to react. So if you think back to an early traumatic experience, maybe a grandparent or a great-grandparent died, or an elderly neighbor that was like a grandparent to you. And you go to, not everybody does, but let's just say for the sake of this particular example, you go to the funeral home and you're going to calling hours or to the funeral itself, and you watch the adults around you and how they cope. So it could be healthy. It might not be healthy. Is it appropriate to cry? Is it not appropriate to cry? What level of crying is appropriate? Do we choke it all up and put on a brave face or for those around us? Or do we go ahead and we feel and maybe wail or sob? What's appropriate in those circumstances? That's what we learn when we're children. So those coping skills that are instilled upon us at an early age, whether they're healthy or not everybody gets those tools at all. We're just not going to talk about it, or this is just what we do. Might not always be so helpful. So the increase in the amount of trauma, whether it's, hi, Paul, missed you today. I didn't realize you were on vacation. I missed your harassment. So the increased risk of developing unhealthy coping mechanisms is directly related to the trauma that we experience and how we see those things growing up. Like I said, those adults around us. So maybe those unhealthy coping mechanisms could be alcohol and drugs. They tend to be addictions. Alcohol and drugs, gambling, shopping, crime, sex. I'm going to try to keep this PG-13, but it is one of those top 5 things that people turn to. It all comes back down to we're looking for something to feel good, which is understandable. You experience some sort of trauma. That doesn't feel good. That stress is not good. So we're looking for something to bring us back up. And sometimes those coping mechanisms, let's pick on shopping. I don't mind to shop. I like shopping. Get something pretty and new, and maybe it's your earrings. Maybe it's something really big like a new car. It could be a number of things, but that shopping produces a temporary high. So I could get into the science lecture about how trauma and stress affect the brain and like the hippocampus and the amygdala, and I'm just going to save that. You can look that up if you're really interested in that sort of thing. It is fascinating, but I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to speak to that. But basically, that stress and trauma in our brain signals to our body to release cortisol and adrenaline. So that damages the memory, learning, emotions, parts of the brain, important things in the brain. And it can lead to repressing traumatic memories. So you could have strong reactions to certain people, places, and situations, difficulty controlling your emotions like anger management or anxiety. You could have instability, like not being able to hold down a job or a relationship, fear of abandonment, self-sabotage, impulsivity, just feeling emotionally exhausted. I feel that way just talking about it. So you could repress those memories and it could have an effect. Sometimes people don't even know that they're suppressing traumatic memories because of what happened to them as children. So there are 3, I am going to get slightly bookish on you for a moment. There are 3 main types of trauma. So there's acute, there's a single incident, something major that happens. Hi, Rick. That people, the rape or domestic violence, maybe you were able to get out. But that actually translates into the second one, chronic or prolonged. Typically, domestic violence isn't necessarily, unfortunately, isn't just a one-off. And when we're children, especially if we're subjected to it, it can be really damaging. And then there's complex, which are very multiple events that happen that are traumatic to people and tend to be invasive. So all of that manifests into guilt and shame, where you feel disconnected and unable to relate to other people. Going back to having instability in your job or relationships. So anxiety, fear, anger, depression, it's all grief. So when I did work in hospice as a bereavement coordinator, I had the very fortunate, and I'm so grateful, experience to go and become a certified grief recovery specialist. So in one weekend, in 4 days, an extended weekend, we did in that amount of time what we typically take groups through in 8 to 10 weeks. It was insane. However, highly therapeutic, loved every minute of it, walked numerous groups through the process. If you ever have the opportunity to participate in grief recovery, please, please, please. It's not easy, it's not fun, but it's very, very healing. And you get out a lot, like those repressed memories, they can come up. You get out a lot because you do go back to childhood and you do go back to those first experiences and what you remember. So please participate if you ever have the opportunity to do so. Anyway, I got to walk people through those stages of grief and realize that those first experiences of trauma, or the complex trauma that goes across a lifetime, can be really damaging. And we talk about those quick fixes, those things that we do, the shopping, gambling, whatever it might be, that can be innocent if it's done in moderation, all things in moderation. But if it isn't done in moderation and it becomes a problem and it permeates various areas of your life, it bankrupts you, it infringes on your relationships. Maybe you don't go to work because you have X, Y, or Z going on. That's when it's a problem. So, like I said, it makes total sense. I'm not judging at all. I am the last person that's going to judge you, right behind Tish. And it makes sense that with these feelings, you want to, hi, Kristen, you want to make sure that, sorry, I got a phone call in the middle of that. I forgot to put my do not disturb on. I think it was Michael's school. It's probably a robocall. Anyway, it makes sense that these feelings lead us to seek comfort. And it's just more important to make sure that it's in a healthy way, because ultimately these quick fixes go away. The high of getting something at the store that's pretty and flashy will go away pretty quickly. And then you have to buy something else, and then buy something else, and then buy something else. You want to say hi? Say hi, everybody. This is Phineas. This is who messes with the curtains in all my lives. Hi. All right. Go away. Anyway, we just want to make sure that it's sustainable. Shopping typically isn't sustainable, especially for buying large ticket items. So what do? So the first step is that we face it. That is scary. That's really, really scary. I'm not going to minimize that at all. However, it's the first step, and it's a big one. And sometimes it takes support. And sometimes you have to kind of get a little closer, and then get a little closer, and then get a little closer. I had a wonderful counselor when I was going through my divorce with my ex-husband. And she said, it's a big, scary lion, but he's rotten. He's as rotten as he is adorable. It's that nose. I love it. It's a big, scary lion, and its roar is ferocious. And you're like, oh my God, it's so loud. It's a huge animal, and I know that it's going to kill me. But what if you just stopped and turned around and realized that that lion didn't have any teeth, and it didn't have any claws, and it couldn't hurt you? So sometimes you just have to turn around and face it. And then we recognize it. Okay, it's a lion. And It is big and it is scary and it's got a ferocious roar, but it doesn't have any teeth. So we named it as well. It's a lion. And then you love it or yourself. So, hi Deb. When you love yourself, if you can't love the situation, maybe you had an abuser and it's really, really hard to have any sort of love for that person after what they did to you. Love yourself. Put your hands on your heart and feel yourself, your inner being, your energy, your soul. It's still there. Nobody can take that away from you. That's yours. So love yourself if you can't love the situation. And then the same thing for forgiving. Forgive yourself. I know. We talk in grief recovery about that 1%. I didn't ask to be raped. I didn't ask to have somebody beat my face in. I didn't ask for the drunk driver to hit me. I know that it sounds counterintuitive, but we have to take 1% responsibility for how we feel, for our reactions. Yes, what happened was awful. However, I can only control myself. Same thing. You can only control yourself. So if you can't forgive the person, forgive the situation. If you can't forgive the situation, forgive yourself for not being able to do that. That's often really hard for people too. I don't know that I can forgive myself. That's where I come in. When we can start to forgive, we can start to let go. And when we have the scissors, it's like, Tish, I'm going to use a Wizard of Oz reference. So if you're watching, Glinda says, "You've always had the power, my dear." It was in her shoes. She's always had the power to go home. She just didn't know it. So we have the power. We hold the scissors and we can cut the cords to that traumatic experience. So those quick fixes aren't sustainable. So what do? We move into healing. And I always implore people that I am not a mental health counselor. I am not a licensed mental health counselor, even though I've taken several social work courses and I'm working towards that degree. I am not a licensed personal counselor. So please always, just like the medical advice with Reiki, please always make sure that you are seeking professional help if you need it. What I can do through Reiki and through your chakra alignment, like I said before, it's like your car. So you can have a perfectly aligned, all your tires are aligned, fresh oil change, ready to go. You pull out of the parking lot and you hit a pothole. Automatically you're out of alignment. Same thing with our chakras. We can be feeling really good and we go and we pull out into traffic and somebody cuts us off or honks the horn at us like it was our fault when it clearly wasn't our fault. Yeah, that doesn't ever happen to me, but it didn't happen to me at all today. My wife is laughing. So she knows how I get. Guilty right here. However, we can get out of alignment just like our car. The chakras automatically start getting all wonky. So when people have trauma, you can imagine how wonky their chakras are. And it's not a quick fix. It isn't. It's healing. Healing is deep, dirty work. Think about the lotus. Where does it grow? In the mud. So in really deep roots. So we have to peel back those layers. Onions have layers, ogres have layers, you know. So we peel back those layers and it might take a while, and that's okay. There is no timeline on grief. There is no timeline on healing. So sometimes, especially when you first turn around and face it, you might have to take a couple steps back. So we might do an initial treatment and then we step back for a couple of weeks, a couple of months. And then you come back, we start peeling back those layers some more, and then we step back. then we start peeling it back, and then we step back. And the amount of time that it takes depends on you. It depends on your healing journey. So some people have, I'm going to go back to grief, they think it's insurmountable. There's no way I can ever get past this trauma. Well, if that's what you tell yourself, if that's the story that you're authoring, then yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. However, if you're open, like I always say, just be open, then we can start working. And it takes active participation. So if you're peeling back those layers and then all of a sudden you close back up, that's okay. We'll just peel them back a little bit and they can close up again. But if you're open, then we can continue just kind of discarding and pruning and getting through. With healing, it is messy. It's dirty. Like I said, with grief recovery, not quick, not easy. So many people, usually about week 4 is when we would lose people, because we set up what is grief recovery, what are we doing? And then we get into what we called STIRBs, short-term energy releasing behaviors. STIRBs. It's a funny word. It's a funny acronym. But what is that? That's the unhealthy coping mechanisms. So then we talk about the loss history. And you literally take a graph, just a straight line graph, and you start marking down all that's happened to you. And that gets really ugly. And that's where we start to lose people. Sometimes they come back in a different group. Sometimes they choose to continue one-on-one because it's too much to share with other people. So you might not have anybody in your life that you can talk to, or you feel like you don't have anyone in your life that you can talk to about it. That's where the professionals come in. So when you start peeling back those layers, it's going to hurt and it's going to be messy. Not going to sugarcoat it for you. It's not pretty. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to not know what you're feeling. But the support is what's important. So if you feel like you don't have anybody in your life that you can talk to, hi, I'm over here, ready to help in any way that I can. So I have yammered quite a bit. Probably, once again, information overload. Feel free to rewatch this. It will be posted and pinned to the page and on YouTube. So does anybody have any questions about grief in general or trauma, about healing, coping mechanisms, what all of this means? I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm just going to give it a few minutes. If you do have any questions and maybe you don't want to talk about it with the group, you know where to find me. You can message me on Facebook, or you can email me, willowtreeheals@gmail.com. Or if you have my phone number, you can text me. Quiet group. No question. Did I do that well? Or is everybody just really enamored with my earrings? I can't even remember where I got these. I think Amazon. Don't laugh at me. It's water, don't worry. No unhealthy coping mechanisms here. Thank you. I hope it was informative for everyone. Any questions about how I can help you? Any questions about something different? I did put videos up on YouTube for the weeklies, if you're into that. All right. Well, if you have questions, feel free to contact me. Let me know. Thank you all for watching and for being so loving and supportive. I really appreciate it. Take care.